How is it going, everybody? You're watching Visual Intelligence, and welcome back to a very exciting Affinity Designer tutorial. So in this tutorial, it will be a logo design tutorial, and I'll be showing you how to make this. So in this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this logo design. As you can see, it kind of has this really unique look in how like a 3D look, and I've used some modern gradients to kind of finish that off with a dark background, and I'll show you how you can achieve this look in Affinity Designer. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you want to do is Control N to create a new document. Let's go with 720p because why not? This is again a vector graphics software, so you don't need to really care about the size. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with a circle. So let's hit M. If you hit M on your keyboard, you'll get the rectangle tool. If you hit M twice, you get the circle tool or the ellipse tool. If you click and drag, you can draw an ellipse, and if you hold shift, it will snap into a perfect circle, which is exactly what we want. And then let's try to center that just for now. You can also go to your transform panel, you can change the width and height. Let's do something like 400 by 400. Alright, that looks good. And just to make it more visible, I'll hit D on my keyboard and it will make the stroke black and the fill white. This is just for now. We'll do the colors as a last step. So now that we have this selected, we can hit Control or Command C to copy it, and then Control or Command V to paste it. And by default, it will paste it in place. If you're using something like Illustrator, you're gonna have to do Control F to place in place. All right, so let's change the width and height, but first we want to change the anchor to be on the center of the object. So let's hit the center square once, and now let's do the half of whatever we chose at first. So we chose 400, so let's do 200, and we want to do 200 for the width and height as well. All right, so that looks good. The next thing we want to do is we want to drag this to snap so that the center of the circle snaps into the left edge of the bigger circle, and you want to hold shift as well so that it doesn't move in the y-axis. So that looks good to me. All right, so another thing you want to do is you want to hold Alt and then drag to the right to create a new circle, and then make sure you're holding shift so that it keeps a good angle. And then when it snaps to the right of the first circle, you can release. So this one looks good. So if you're in Illustrator, you wouldn't need to do this step, but since I'm in Affinity Designer, and it has some slight differences in how they do their shape boolean operations, and so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make sure that in this point they don't just touch, but they also overlap just a tiny bit. And in order to do that, I'll just hit the select this right circle and then hit left on my keyboard. And as you can see now, if I hit Command Y to view the outline, you can see that we have some slight overlap, which shouldn't be that much of a big deal. So yeah. All right, so let's select both circles now. So what I want to do now is I want to rotate around the first circle by 30 degrees. And if we just do that right now, we're gonna lose our origin, because basically what we do here is we're just gonna rotate all on the center of both circles, which is not exactly what we want. So a trick we can use is we can copy one circle to the right of the first circle, and this way we have all three of them. And then if we rotate now, it's going to rotate around the middle circle, and then we want to make sure it's 30 degrees. And if you hold shift while rotating, by the way, it will snap into like good angles, like 15, 30, 45, and so on. For our purposes, we do want 30 only, so that looks good to me. Now we can go ahead and get rid of the first circle. So that looks good to me. So one thing I want to do is I want to copy the big circle, and then I want to select all of my circles, and then I want to divide, and it will divide all of the shapes into different shapes. And this is when we delete all of the shapes that we're not interested in. So we're not interested in this shape, and we only need this spot right here. So remember, we actually copied the bigger circle because we actually need it. And if you hit Control V now, it will paste it in place. And for now, we want to remove the fill color for this circle. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, that looks good. Okay, so the reason why we need this circle is because we want to rotate on all of this on the center of the bigger circle. So let's go ahead and do that. But first, we want to select these two shapes, and we want to merge them together with the Union tool or the Add tool. All right, so it seems that it did not do a good job, merging the shapes together. I guess Affinity Designer could use a little more work into their pathfinding tools, like adding, subtracting, dividing, and so on. So it's not perfect, so you may need to go in and delete some of the points that you feel are redundant. So with my node tool, you can hit A to get node tool. You can select multiple points, and you can just delete those, the ones that you think are redundant. Go ahead and fix those. And you might not need to do this step based on your level of success when you're merging the shapes together. I mean, it's not usually rocket science or anything, but sometimes software does not work the way you expect it to. But all right. So now let's select everything. I want to hit Control C to copy it, and then Control V to paste it in place. And then you want to rotate 120 degrees. And then if you hit Command J, it will duplicate it again, and then you can rotate 120 degrees again. All right, so these are the only shapes we're interested in. At this point, we don't really care about the circles, so let's go ahead and select those and delete them. And then all we have now are these shapes. So let's select all of them, hit C on our keyboard to select the corner tool, and then we want to select these sides, and we want to round those up a little bit. So that looks good. Let's select our shapes again, and then let's hit Command C and then Command V to paste. And then what we want to do is we want to flip horizontally, and as you can see, this is the shape that we get. So you can see that this is not perfect, so we can probably rotate a little bit and create the kind of like the look that we want. So make sure you don't go all the way like this, and you're gonna have some weirdness going on in the edges, but rather something that looks more like this, something that looks natural, as though like a piece of paper is around a ball or something like that. So that looks good to me. So now let's go ahead and add some color to our logo. Let's go ahead and create a background. In order to do that, you can just go to your rectangle tool, and then you can drag or make a big rectangle that covers all of your background. You can choose to disable the stroke, and then for the color we want like a solid blue. So let's go ahead and try to get something that looks decent. Probably don't need any yellow. And if your color panel looks different, then maybe you can select CMYK to choose the CMYK option, or if you're more comfortable with RGB or HSL, you can do that as well. Alright, so I'll call that good. And so what I want to do is Command Shift left bracket to send it all the way to the back of the artboard, and then we want to do Command L to lock it, and this way we'll not be able to select it. Alright, so let's select our shapes now. And then what we want to do at this point is we want to go and disable the stroke, and then we want to hit A on our keyboard, and it will bring up the fill and stroke in our top menu right here. And then we want to click on the fill, go to gradient, and then we want to select a gradient that goes from yellow or goldish to more like an orange, light orange look. So maybe you can start with the yellow right here. And then on the other side, you want to have more of a red or magenta. So this one actually looks good. Yep, and you can choose to make the opacity go all the way down, but for my purposes, maybe 30% would be good. Yep, that looks good to me. Maybe we can go back to the yellow and make it brighter. Yep, that looks good. Now we want to go ahead and play with the colors a little bit. So if you select the shape and hit G, it will show you the gradient, and then you can go ahead and play with the gradients a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I want to try and do here is I want the gradient to go from the left to the right of the shape, and not like this, for example. Or you can try different methods. It's just it needs to look intentional as opposed to just something random or the default. I will include the project in the description as well. If you wanna just download that and use it, you can just do that. All right. So I'm gonna go and select the shapes that are on the back. All right. I'm just making sure that these are the back shapes, and then you want to make the opacity of those maybe like 50%, 52%. All right, so once we do that, you can go back and work more on the gradient. Maybe you want the visible part to be the orange side as opposed to the bright side. You can also go back to the other shapes and work on those as well. So what's cool about this is you can select everything again, hit A on your keyboard, and you can just play with the gradients all over again. Alright, so we want the orange to be less visible. Maybe like 50%, and then you want to select the shapes on the back again. And for those, you may want to go back to the color of the yellow, make it less visible. We want to go back to the orange or the red color as well and play with that. Yep, that looks good. So let's go ahead and change the background because I'm not a big fan at this point. So let's hit Command Control L to unlock it. And let's have a more warm color, maybe something like this. And then we want to make it a bit darker as well, more saturated. That looks already looks better. We want to lock it again, and then we want to select the front shapes. And that yellow, somehow it's not working well for me, so let's go ahead and make it more warm, more orangish. Let's see how that would look. And as you can see, it's all about the fine-tuning and adjustments. You can make this your own. Obviously you can have a different type of colors as well, and those would be would look good too, depending on the type of colors that you use. If you need help picking colors, maybe I can have a tutorial on that, so let me know in the description. So let's select and drag our shape to the left, and then let's hit T on our keyboard to get the type tool, and then let's click anywhere and type something. So let's say revolve for now, and then it's gonna be black, so you're not gonna be able to see anything. So let's go ahead and scale that up quite a bit, and let's pick a white color. So maybe we're gonna go with our usual pop-ins, because why not? So if you go to your typography panel, you can select to have everything in capital letters. I find this to be very handy. And then you want to increase the spacing between the letters quite a bit. So if you want to go more than 50%, you can just type a number like 100%, or while having your text selected, you can hold Option and hit the right or left arrow to increase your spacing. Let's go ahead and go with 150, and let's go ahead and hold Shift while dragging from the right to rescale it proportionally. So that looks good to me. Alright. Alright, so that's all for this tutorial. As you can see, the colors are quite different than the first one, and the reason is I just wanted to also include my selection of color in this tutorial, and just to kind of encourage you to experiment with colors. You don't have to copy and paste hex codes from the internet. You can just go ahead and play with colors and select your own and make beautiful gradients on your own. However, I will be including a link to this project in the description if you want to use these exact same colors. I hope you find this tutorial useful. I hope you learned something new. Let me know if you want to see more of these videos, and please make sure to like and subscribe this video, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.